It's the College Football Kickoff Show, brought to you on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, where picks get made, lanyards get worn, and fun gets had. But you can also add Freudian slips, lanyard drops, and one-score losses on Thursdays and Fridays. And we have a developing story. We got a lanyard missing. More on that shortly. Brandon Rutherman here, coming to you from the confines of home, where we are about to embark on another busy college football Saturday. One in which we'll not have Oregon playing, we'll not have Alabama playing, we'll not have Georgia playing. But the games that we will be seeing today that require the obligatory lanyard picks are the biggest ones. Well, not quite the biggest ones. The three biggest ones come up at the end of the show, but we got a full slate of lanyard selections to get to, and we are going to start backwards this morning with not one, but two nylon lanyard selections. And before I even dive into that, I must turn on the tracker because we got to make sure that we're doing this right. First off, Fresno State is visiting New Mexico. True TV is carrying that one, and we have yet to find a polyester lanyard for Fresno State, so their retirement party hasn't been official yet, but we are taking Fresno State to beat New Mexico, and that's nothing more further from that truth. Oregon State is hosting Purdue, and here is that developing story. I do believe that while I was digging out the lanyards for today's show this morning, I couldn't help but notice that Oregon State, yes, Oregon State, was not in the box. And then I checked my nylon lanyard box, and the only lanyard I found was this one, which now begs the question, did I somehow lose it at Cameron a couple of weeks ago? Because given how many lanyards I took with me that morning and how many pockets, I had to use every single pocket I had to accommodate them all. I may have lost it at Cameron. I don't know. And quite frankly, I could care less. If there was a lanyard worth losing, it's Oregon State. So, be gone, Beavers. I'm picking you over Purdue, but that's as far as I'm going to go with it. Which now brings us to, let's see if we get this right here. I know it's here. There we go. We found it. Kansas State BYU tonight from Provo. And it is a Big 12 opener, I do believe. Actually, it's not quite a Big 12 opener for both teams. They're already entrenched in the madness here, and I want to try to make sure that I get this lanyard situated and put it on in the correct way. God knows I hate it whenever I get down to doing these picks. I want to try to flatten them out, but I can never do it right because everything's got to be done quickly and on the fly. I'm taking K-State just because BYU is not worth talking about, and K-State, I think, might be in the conversation with a couple other Big 12 teams that I'm going to be talking about in a little bit. But for now, we're going to go ahead and take K-State. Baylor over Colorado, no further explanation needed. Just want to make sure that I get these picks officially official. 1, 2, and 3. Boom. Boston College hosting Michigan State. This is an attractive matchup because we really don't know. We really don't know if Michigan State is a team that's going to be back in that conversation after being out of it for a couple of seasons, or if there's still some room to grow. Boston College was in that same boat, and they're doing pretty good for themselves with Bill O'Brien running the show there. So even though they did lose its first game, I see them bouncing back tonight in Chestnut Hill. So I'm going to take Boston College at home against Michigan State. Iowa is visiting Minnesota. That game, by the way, on NBC, which these days stands for nothing but crap. But to their credit, though, they're kind of taking some of that broadcasting load off the other networks, and, more power to them for that, but that's as far as it's going to go. As for the game, speaking of nothing but crap, you could say that about Iowa's offense, but you won't say it about Iowa's defense, and I think tonight will be a difference-making game for the defense going in to the Twin Cities and taking back with them a win, and I do believe there's a trophy that's tied to that. I can't think of the name of it right off the top, but got to roll with the Hawkeyes, which now brings us to how many we got left out of the, and there we go. The first Lanyard dropping. We'll tell you who in a minute. Oh, it's good to be me, isn't it? Should we talk about the one-score games real quick from last night? I mean, my goodness. 2 of them went to overtime. 1 went to double overtime, and I lost them both. Illinois beating Nebraska was awesome because I like Illinois, even though I didn't pick them this time around. But they're 4-0 now, and props to Brett Bielema for getting this ship righted in the right direction. Couple more wins, and they're bowl eligible. Hello. Nebraska, meanwhile, given what I saw in the highlights, this would almost be like a prelude for tomorrow's Pick 6 here. Given what I saw in the highlights, this team is still growing. There will be more wins coming. And I said it before and I'll say it again. They will be bowling this year. I'm almost certain of that. This team is showing that they can play with anybody. So there's that. Then there's Washington State beating San Jose State in double overtime. San Jose State had Washington State on the ropes there for a while. But I'll tell you what, Washington State, that quarterback they got, Retier, it may be the Pac-2, but if they keep this going, Washington State might be in the CFP conversation. So, back to the picks we go. We're still in the primetime evening slate of games. Washington's hosting Northwestern in what I now can refer to as the Purple Haze Bowl. All that's missing is Jimi Hendrix coming back from the dead to play Purple Haze, but one purple team will have to win. Unfortunately, it's the one that I'm not too crazy about picking, considering that Washington was heartbroken last week when the Apple Cup got wrestled away from them on a goal line stand to finish off Washington State's 24-19 victory. And what an ideal segue that was, going from Washington State to Washington and then back to Washington State again. Nevertheless, Washington will beat Northwestern. But if Northwestern wins, then there's going to be some interesting conversations at the water coolers. Or perhaps maybe the local Starbucks, depending upon where you are in Seattle. The Lanyard that got dropped is the next team that I'm picking, Miami. They're playing USF tonight, 7 p.m. kick for that one. Miami with Martinez and Ward and that wide receiver whose name I'm trying to figure out and can't. This might be Miami's coming back party, I would imagine. One party that won't be coming back is Florida State, who hosts Cal tonight. Fernando Mendoza, Jaden Ott, and a Cal Berkeley team that I think might steal one in Tallahassee. I am taking Cal. Sue me. And last but not least, out of that early evening prime time, actually, I take that back. There's two of them here, and I just want to make sure that I have them. Colorado State is hosting UTEP. This should be an easy one for Colorado State. UTEP is winless. And Colorado State, I think, would love nothing better than to get their ship back on track after losing to Colorado last week. Not that I care. Here's perhaps, I think, maybe the trickiest of tricky games. TCU, SMU, 5 p.m. kick for that one. SMU, I swear, I don't know how long I've been I know I've been doing this for a few years. I've been doing this selection show, kickoff show, call it what you want show. But it always seems like when TCU and SMU get together, whoever I pick to win ends up losing it. So reverse psychology does not work in this matchup. So I'm taking SMU at home to beat the Horned Frogs. And that'll take care of matters for the early evening primetime games. Now we dive into the middays. And again, we continue to go backwards. I ended up, oh my goodness. Oh no, we already did that pick from last night. Yeah, we're not doing, I almost made a beeline to the bedroom to get into the box of lanyards. Sorry. I almost ended up picking Missouri a second time. Not that we needed to pick them again. They're playing Vanderbilt. Who needs to do mulligans when you're doing this show? Once the lanyard is on, it stays on. So, anyway, midday. We got a handful of games to pick from here. There's one school that we've not talked about a lot, and that's Arizona State. They're undefeated. They're heading to Lubbock to take on Texas Tech. FS1's carrying this one, 3:30 kick time. This is a difficult one to process because this potentially could be, I wouldn't call it a trap game per se, but if you're Arizona State, are you what the record says you are? And will it show in conference play? Can it? Will it? Not this week. Going to take Texas Tech at home. But if Arizona State wins, then we start talking about them a little bit more. LSU hosting UCLA. This would have been so much fun if this were a bowl game. Instead, it's in Death Valley. It's a 3:30 kick time. And, well, UCLA's not quite ready for such mammoth bowl game undertakings like LSU is. So LSU should have absolutely no trouble today. However, I'm quick to remind myself that Brian Kelly, the troll of trolls in the game of coaching, still hasn't quite figured out how to win the big ones yet. So we got to watch and see what happens this afternoon in Baton Rouge. Meanwhile, Arkansas and Auburn. Arkansas pretty much, I think, in the same boat as Arizona State. Not so much from a record standpoint, although there's a part of me that's now going to do the cheat sheet thing really quick here, because I want to make sure that we have the necessary records to support this. Both are 2-1. So this is kind of, I think, where It's a crossroads game. That's what it basically is. It's a crossroads game. To the winner, a conference win and a slight separation from the contender-pretender pool. And that's as far as it's going to go. Pardon me a moment. Excuse me. Arkansas, Auburn. I'm a little bit skeptical about Auburn, as a lot of fans are, especially the hardcores, but you win at home today, then all will be forgotten about. But if you lose, then the coals will start getting hotter. That much we do know. So we're taking Auburn at home. Maybe the toughest pick I'll make today, Rutgers and Virginia Tech. And this is one I think we're going to have to revisit this one a little bit. And where are we going? We are going to, well, okay, Rutgers 2-0, Virginia Tech 2-1. There, it's in Blacksburg. Sandman entereth. But the funny thing about this, I want to see Kyle Monangai. We haven't heard a lot about him. Really, we haven't heard a lot about the running backs at all this year. In fact, I was looking, and this, I guess, is what ACC rushing leaders. Maybe it is, I could be wrong about this. It's either ACC rushing leaders or nation rushing leaders. And there was only 2 players averaging over 100 yards a game. One that plays for Pitt, and the other one we'll talk about shortly. Amari and Hampton from North Carolina. That's as far as it's going to go on that one. But Kyron Drones in Virginia Tech, the dual threat that can run it, can throw it, might be a little too much for Rutgers to handle. As much as I hate to do this, I am taking Virginia Tech at home today. Rutgers, however, if they win, then they'll at least be halfway towards 6 wins in a bowl bid, or at least bowl eligibility in this instance. But like I said, it's a tough one to call. Penn State against Kent. I was talking about this yesterday. Kent just played Tennessee, and you think going to Penn State and trying to win at Happy Valley is going to happen? I don't think so. Really, this game should have had less airtime than the time I gave the Baylor-Colorado game, but no, not at all. Penn State in a rout. Notre Dame, Miami of Ohio. I could very easily do the same treatment with Notre Dame that I did with Penn State, given the fact that the last I checked, Notre Dame was a 7-touchdown favorite against Miami of Ohio. I am going to play the role of realist and say they will not cover, but they will win easily against Miami of Ohio. And then there's Louisville hosting Georgia Tech. And this is quite intriguing, a matchup. Maybe the kind of game I think that I could watch. I mean, really, it's a good matchup. Georgia Tech 3-1, Louisville 2-0. Louisville ranked 19th in the country, and I believe ESPN2's got this one. I'd imagine this game's going to be tight. It'll be competitive. Every blade of synthetic turf will be fought for, or should I say tire pellets. This is where we are in the crazy world of football field technology, isn't it? I'm very intrigued here. Georgia Tech, I think, would have to play this game the way they play with Florida State. If the body language is there, they're going to be in it for the long haul, I would imagine. but it's going to be a tough one. And I think, Georgia Tech will get wins elsewhere, but today will be a hard one to conquer. A lot harder, I think, than the game against Florida State. Louisville will win that one, which now takes us to the high noon kicks. And again, we continue to go backwards. Just got to remember where we left off at. And now we get the fun started with maybe a tricky matchup in College Park. Do they still call it Bird Stadium in College Park? University of Maryland. They're hosting Villanova. Now, before I make this pick, let me remind you that Villanova, as of this weekend, is ranked number 5 in the FCS poll. So this game, by and large, could potentially be a trap game. We're being realistic about this. We are. However, I don't have a Villanova Lanyard to play around with, so we have Maryland's. That's an easy pick right there. Perhaps, maybe can we find it? Yes, there we go. Perhaps maybe the one game that people will watch that really shouldn't be watching, but you're in the SEC and you're better off watching it anyway because it's the SEC. Florida and Mississippi State, where we might hear more crickets than cowbells down in Starkville. Certainly now, after last week's loss to Toledo, Mississippi State, I think, may have hit rock bottom. And if you're Florida, there has to be a sense of urgency to save Billy Napier's job. The gospel's been preached once already. I did it last week, and I'm going to preach it again. Start DJ Lagway. You do that, and great things are going to happen for Florida. This may be the last time, except for maybe when Florida plays Florida State. This may be the last time that I'll take the Gators. Come on, Florida. You say you won't back down. Show me you won't back down. All right? Yeah, this coming from somebody who's wearing a Tennessee shirt, and I bet you're wondering why. You'll find out in due time. Speaking of body language, I am disturbed, concerned, and a few other things that I can't think of right off the top of my head with this next one. Kansas visiting West Virginia in Morgantown this afternoon. And both are coming off losses. Kansas lost to Illinois at home. They're looking for the bounce back win. West Virginia, of course, as you know, lost to Pitt last week. And I'll tell you something. I have read the lion's share of posts, about 99%, I would say 99.9%, but 99% of the posts that I've read are calling for the firing of Neil Brown. I understand it. You want to beat Pitt, and, fans can be fickle, but they can be very smart too. The most difficult part about that is you fire somebody. What good are you trying to put in an interim head coach to right the ship? We're not living in the past of Rich Rodriguez turning the reins over to Bill Stewart. Although I'm quite intrigued if there is somebody that would come in and step in and take that role. But again, this is a body language game. This already has a playoff feel to it when you think of the desperation that both teams are carrying with them to this game today in Morgantown. To the winner, a conference win and nothing more. And if you're West Virginia, it's almost like you're trying to chase the winning season that may not exist. I mean, this is one of those instances where you have to play your best football for the rest of the season because it's not getting any easier. Every practice is going to be harder. Every game is going to be harder. As far as I can see it, even as I say this for Kansas's sake too, everybody's starting 0-0. Just win today. Just win today. There won't be any country roads kerning coming from me until I feel that you've done enough to earn that right. So we're going with West Virginia at home, and, fingers crossed, because I don't want to pick against them. I don't. I'll tell you one team that I'll have a lot of fun picking games with, not necessarily for wins or for losses, but the fact that there's a story brewing in Bloomington, and it involves the Indiana Hoosiers. Curt Cignetti, the former coach of James Madison, is changing the culture one game at a time. Today, Indiana's got a non-conference game against Charlotte. They should win this one easily. They will enter conference play, I would believe, with a 4-0 record, and it's something that I know is going to sit right with everybody in Bloomington. It's not just a basketball school. If it can work for Kansas, it can work for Indiana. And I believe that. They got the right guy in place, and I am all in on the Hoosiers. If they end up winning this one, all they need, is a couple more wins, ball eligibility, a spot on the helmet tree, and there you go. I ill-advisedly skipped the next pick, but I can't help but hold this gorgeous North Carolina Lanyard. They're playing James Madison today at home. J-Mad better be mad. Otherwise, Carolina will run wild with Mr. Hampton. I hate to think on such terms, but being that it's a non-conference game, it's a game North Carolina has to win, and they will. And that takes care of that pick. We stay in the state of North Carolina for an all-important ACC tilt, high noon in Death Valley, NC State, and Clemson. It is, to my knowledge, that Grayson McCall will not be playing, or at least that is the general consensus of the reports that I saw that he's in concussion protocol, listed as day-to-day. Last I checked with, not that I interviewed Dave Doran. No, but I did read somewhere where McCall is likely not going to play, which leaves freshman phenom, I believe the name is C.J. Bailey. I remembered watching the NC State spring game, and he looked really, really good. He can run it. He can throw it. He's a good dual threat and could give NC State a good springboard for the future here. However, they're playing a Clemson team that's number 21 in the country. They silenced a lot of critics with their huge blowout win over App State last week, but some of those critics might be coming back, if not all of them, if NC State steals one on the road today. But Clemson, you got a job to do, and you had best do it. I'm a very concerned fan. I mean, Dabo Swinney's done a great job at Clemson over the last decade or so, and I can't for the life of me think of anyone else that could run that program other than Swinney. But, he's got to change with the times. In this era of name, image, and likeness, transfer portal, all that other stuff, an expanded college football playoff, you would think they would be in the conversation. Perhaps maybe he's trying the NFL approach, where it's a matter of catching fire at the right time. We don't know, but we'll have a better idea later on this season as far as whether or not Clemson is playoff material worthy. 2 more picks to go before we get to the big ones. We're going to begin with Cincinnati and Houston, or should I say Houston at Cincinnati. Willie Fritz, I believe, got his long-awaited win. Of course, I'm not exactly sure if that is the truth, so we got to do our little cheat sheet business and figure this out. And he did. Cincinnati, 2-1 conference game, played at Nippert. It's still a good ways to go here, but here's the thing about Houston. I won't read the article, but this is a revenge game for Houston, and the sad part about it is, losing to Cincinnati last year must have really hurt. Then again, so too is Houston. They're injury plagued. All the more reason why I'm taking the Bearcats at home. So that takes care of that. And finally, Ohio State and Marshall. And this one here should be relatively easy. But again, Marshall can play with anybody. But, you're going into Columbus. And you're going up against the Buckeyes. Probably the most loaded team, talent-wise, in the country. And probably the one team that I think could do the most damage to Texas if they were ever to hook up in a national championship game or a playoff game. So, that takes care of all those picks. So much fun to put on, just as fun to take them off. And another Lanyard dropped. Nope, that's over and done with. 3 big ones to come at you, and oh yeah, Fresno State, get out of here. We don't want you anymore. Let's get to the business here. We are at the 32-minute mark of the show. We got to wrap this up quick. Oklahoma State is hosting Utah, and I ill-advisedly shut the tracker off. I didn't mean to do that, but we're going to do a quick scroll here. Let's make sure that we honor these rankings correctly, and I think I passed it up. There we go. Number 12, Utah. Number 14, Oklahoma State. And it's like choosing the lesser of two evils. But being that Oklahoma State's back home at Boone Pickens, I'd be hard-pressed to bet against them. So I got to take Oklahoma State at home. It should be a fun game. Could potentially be a shootout, too, if everything goes accordingly. USC is at Michigan. Boy, does that call to mind all the Rose Bowls they played against each other. Yeah. Now they play in the Big Ten Conference. I find it funny. That this game, as attractive as it looks for its offensive prowesses between the two teams, with Zachariah Branch for USC and wide receiver, Miller Moss at quarterback, and then the Michigan side of it with Donovan Edwards. Defensively, and I was not aware of this, USC is doing its due diligence. Yeah, here we go. Due diligence time. USC, thanks to a defensive coordinator, and I wish I remembered the name, but they had, by and large, they pretty much have righted all the wrongs from previous seasons. I don't know if it's so much predicated on, I should put my glasses on, shouldn't I? Yeah, that would kind of help. Like, I'm almost doing my Jameis Winston impression. Like, what am I looking at? Um, yeah, we know USC has got a defense, and according to one analyst from CBS Sports, I wish I could remember. I think it's Brian Jones. I think. Not sure. But he thinks that their defense will be the difference today. I beg to differ. Because Michigan still has Mason Graham, and while it may not have the star power element from the championship team, they're playing in the freaking big house, okay? Don't let Michigan catch wind of what you're trying to sell, because nobody's going to buy it. All right? This is, I think, the one game where USC needs to be humbled. Lincoln Riley needs to be humbled. USC can't be mentioned in the same breath as Michigan, let alone Oregon, let alone Ohio State. And God knows who else they got to play. Probably Notre Dame, too, now that I think about it. So, yes, I'm taking Michigan at home. And now, the moment of truth. Tennessee, Oklahoma, from Norman. I cannot begin to tell you how happy I am that this game has been tabbed a big one when you consider the rankings. And I'd be hard pressed. You know, that Michigan and USC game, by the way, USC ranked number 11, overrated. Michigan, number 18, reasonable. So now, here it is, Tennessee, Oklahoma. Tennessee, number 6 in the country. Oklahoma, number 15. I'm sorry. For years, I had long criticized not so much Oklahoma, but the media for ranking the Sooners way too high. And I'm quite positive there are probably those that think that Tennessee is ranked too high. Don't tell that to Josh Heupel. The former OC, the former quarterback for those Sooners, has got nothing but revenge on his mind, and quite frankly, I am all in for a thorough ass-kicking tonight in Norman. Does that Lanyard not look good with the t-shirt? I mean, I think it does. All it's missing is Rocky Top, and I still haven't learned how to sing it yet. Oh. Maybe I'll learn it tonight if they win tonight, and then sing it tomorrow. For now, though, as we close in on the 40-minute mark of this Lanyard selection edition of the College Football Kickoff Show, all the picks are now officially in. And we'll be back, as we said, tomorrow for the Pick 6 wrap-up. 6 takeaways from today, really week 4, basically. We've already talked about a couple of them. So that's pretty much a preview of what you're going to get tomorrow. 6 takeaways. For now, from all of me to all of you, and Brandon Rutherman signing off for the College Football Kickoff Show. I have nothing further, Your Honor. This court is adjourned. Have yourselves a great Saturday and a great college football Saturday at that. Until tomorrow, BR signing off for the College Football Kickoff Show. Enjoy your Saturday.